The St. Louis Storytelling Festival is proud to celebrate its 20th anniversary. Join us for a look back and forward to the next 20 years through the words of the volunteers, tellers, audience, and founders.
I happened to read an article by John Archibald, who was a feature writer for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. And that article featured two storytellers in the Kirkwood School District, Lynn Rubright and Lee Carruthers. And I can't remember why that struck me, but it struck me as something important. So I went back to the office and I thought about that for a little while and then picked up the phone and called Lynn Rubright. So Lynn said sure, she'd be interested. At that point, I called George Rawick, who was the history professor who had edited 38 volumes of slave narratives. And then I called Jane Burgee at the Arch, the folklorist, asked her if she'd be interested. She said sure. And so on the strength of those four, basically, saying yes, this is something worthwhile, and me knowing absolutely nothing about this, other than having a sense of the value that this could add in terms of the urban experience and certainly the late 20th century technologized society experience, that this would be something important to pursue and explore.
The festival has always been fun, free, and dedicated to being accessible to families and children.
It's very important to me. I think it's a wonderful thing that we do for the city. It's a wonderful gift to the city, and I'm very proud to be part of it. And it's just plain fun.
It has grown so. For instance, we tell to about 23,000 children, and it's free. That's the main thing, that we get grants, the university gets grants, and we're able to bring this to the city at no charge to the children. The children experience an event that is unique, and they get to hear the best there is.
When you pass on those stories of your own heritage or stories that you just love from literature, stories from any genre, you really are passing on important values to your listeners, whether those listeners are your children or your grandchildren or children in a schoolroom, classroom setting, or any kind of performance setting. It's that intense personal response of the listener to the performer, to the storyteller, and vice versa. There's an energy that exchanges there, because if the listener is really listening to your story, then the storyteller is getting all kinds of signals back, and the story even takes on a greater intensity and delight and energy and focus. It's a very powerful medium, extremely powerful, because it involves the emotions, as well as the mind, as well as the imagination, as well as the intellect.
I brought my best friend along, and we had just been studying the 60s in social studies, and we had just been studying about a bombing that happened in a church where a bunch of children were killed. And it doesn't really click when you study it in school, because it seems like it happened so long ago that it just doesn't make a difference to you. And we went and we were listening to a woman tell a story, and she told about this bombing. And my friend and I, we heard about it, and we're like, we know this. And she made it so real. By the end, we were both just sobbing. And I always remember that it wasn't like we were happy or anything, but it was like, it made what happened, 40 years ago, it made that real.
You take the children on a journey into a different land, and sometimes they even find themselves. Quite often. The same joys, the same problems as the characters. And that's what makes it so special. Actually, telling the rich man and the poor man with Lynn Rubright, we were on such a high, we improvised the story of the Lord coming into a town and is rejected by the rich man and accepted by the poor man, and he grants the poor man 3 wishes, and then the rich man goes after him and wants 3 wishes too, and he gets them. And then he ruins it all. And it has a wonderful ending, It says, and they lived, the rich man and his wife lived on happily ever after. So we just improvised it, and I had to be the wicked Katharina, and I had to scream half German, half English, my lines, you know, I would say, "Ach, du machst mich verrückt, du schrecklicher Mann," or "You really drive me crazy, you horrible husband," you know. And she was just laughing, we were just laughing so hard. And the audience was laughing with us. Without, you know, without any special effects or anything. It was just relating a story which could have happened to anyone, everywhere, and having fun.
Outreach and diversity efforts have been a major component of the festival from the very start.
We always have deaf storytellers. We have Native Americans. We have people from different parts of the world. African American storytellers have been prominent. It's just a part of the festival. I mean, we don't think about it in those terms, but that's what it is.
I have always contended that it's hard to hate somebody whose story you know, because if there is one methodology that I think is conducive to healing, it is learning and understanding and listening to other people's stories.
A number of teachers have worked with groups of children, teaching them how to tell stories. And then on the first weekend in May, on that Saturday, groups come down and tell. And I think that's a very special part of the festival. It doesn't happen in a lot of other places. It's a way for the kids to perform to a larger audience. And it's also a way for the larger community to get a chance to hear and see some of the things that we're doing with kids.
When you get a parent and a child and they're holding hands and they're listening and you look at them and the expression is the same on both of their faces. One is 45, one's 30, one's 15, one's 3, and the expression is still the same. They're still drawn in to what's going on. And it's really nice to see all age groups come in and enjoy something that you don't have to have a particular interest in, because once you sit down, the storyteller will take you on a hunting trip or a sailing trip or to Africa or to Ireland.
I think one of the things that I've learned from the different stories in that even though some of the storytellers come from very different cultures, I think there's some very common themes, and one of the things it teaches us is that, you know, we're all a community, and in some ways we're not so different, and we share the same hardships, the same sorrows, and the same joys.
Outreach efforts involve schools, city and county parks, hospitals, and more.
The clearest memory I have is of telling a hand story to a blind boy in bed. I began my storytelling by taking the palms of my little brother and sister's hands and seeing a line, and the line might look like a river, or a little bump might be a hill, and they would be the hero and heroine of the story, and my imagination had something to start with. Well, I told this youngster in the hospital in St. Louis that that's how I started, and so he put his hand out. And I went up the heel of his hand and made up a little story about climbing this great, strange red hill. And the boy was quiet, and his mouth was open, he was excited. And then the instant that he seemed to get a little weary, then we slid down the web of his hand and went way up his forefinger, and the boy laughed and laughed, and up and down we went his fingers. And I was able to use his laughter as the guide. When the laughter died down, then we entered a very serious part. Into the palm of the hand we went. And we were going down into the valley. And no one had ever gone down to the valley. And the little boy drew his breath in. So I knew I could take my time going deep into the valley. And then I paused and again used the boy's face and silence to guide me. All that was a long time ago, but that moment is the moment that has stayed in my mind all these years.
Yes, the deaf storytelling's in the evening, and when I saw that the hearing audiences had come into the deaf storytelling, I was pretty excited because I thought maybe they'd be afraid to come into the deaf storytelling. But really they came in and I was thrilled because they seemed to be thrilled about it. It means our programs is successful and awareness is, you know, made available to them because we have an interpreter at the Story Festival, so they can voice our stories. And really, it's wonderful. I'm thrilled that the hearing audience wants to be involved with the deaf storytelling as well. I always enjoy going to the hearing storytellings myself because there's an interpreter there, and you know, so I can get that communication as well, and the relationship is good. It's nice to have us go to theirs and they come to ours.
We rode through some fairly bumpy streets and came to a fairly interesting part of town. To some people it would be interesting anyway, and went through a number of locked doors and waited for people to be called and brought and assembled, and had a lovely, lovely time of storytelling with an audience of young people who were extremely receptive because something had come to them, perhaps in the middle of a day and in the middle of a world when maybe not much comes to them.
You can be resistant and have a shield in front of your whole body psychologically, and then all of a sudden, if you yield to the story and you listen to where it's taking you, you're there in that place. And all those kids were there in that place, and we were supposed to be there an hour, and we were there 2.5 hours because those kids wouldn't let us go. They were starved because stories feed the heart and soul and mind.
Well, the thing that we like that it's interactive, because this particular population is a difficult population, but it's like a piece of ice. Add a little heat and it melts it. And that's what happens. Once these storytellers start warming up to these kids, they're just infused with what's happening.
I think the reason that this festival has prospered and flourished is that it does respond. The introduction of programs at other sites and with other institutions in the community, such as the Botanical Garden and the libraries. The inclusion of the deaf programs, workshops for teachers, international satellite linkages. There's always something that's being added through the ingenuity and the vision of the people involved on a year-to-year basis. And I think that's what keeps the festival strong and keeps it fresh.
The festival could not continue without the work and generosity of the co-sponsors, founders, outreach site managers, volunteers, audiences, staff, and storytellers.
This is Elizabeth Ellis sending you greetings and congratulations on your 20th anniversary festival. I'm just amazed. I hope this year's festival is everything you would dream that it will be.
I want to congratulate everyone and anyone from audience, listener, teller, planning committee, particularly the University of Missouri, on the wonderful job they've done for 20 years. And I hope that we will go on for eons from now on. And so just congratulations, everybody, and a happy 20th.
I certainly rejoice with great gladness to see the St. Louis Festival reach this wonderful landmark, and look forward to a time when I will be back there again, but mostly rejoice that the people of the whole eastern Missouri and western Illinois area have such a remarkable festival that they can attend and be part of as storytelling continues to grow all across the country.
Mazel tov to you all on your 20th anniversary. May it be another grand, grand year, and may we all come together to celebrate again in 20 more years.
Hello, St. Louis. This is Barbara McBride Smith in Oklahoma. Congratulations on the 20th anniversary of your Storytelling Festival. Thanks for inviting me to be a part of the festival's illustrious history. May the good work of storytelling continue to swell and overflow its banks as it touches thousands of listeners each May in the beautiful city of St. Louis.
From myself and the Jefferson National Expansion Memorial, we would like to congratulate the Storytelling Festival on reaching 20 great years, and we hope we'll be able to host for 20 more.
Congratulations to Sparks by the River, the St. Louis Storytelling Festival. I want to send you my very best, and thank you for all the wonder you bring. Yours, J. O'Callahan.
Well, the stories are the sparks, and if we do have a little extra energy, a little extra sparkle, it's because we're in love. And we're in love with story because we know its power, how it has fed us as individuals, and then how we can pass on our joy for story to the listeners. And it's a thing we pass on. It's like spreading sparks, and the little fires get started, we hope, in the minds of listeners. And we love it when people, all ages, say, I can do that. I can be a storyteller too. Or I'm already a storyteller. I just didn't realize it. And that's really fun when people recognize it, because truly we are all storytellers.
I'm growing tired of the big city lights, tired of the glamour, and tired of the sights. In all my dreams I am longing once more back to my home on the old river shore. I am sad and lonely everywhere I roam. Miss the Mississippi and you, dear, longing for my homeland, muddy river shore. Miss the Mississippi and you, dear, moving this wide world over, always so sad and blue, so blue. Nothing seems to cheer me under heaven's dome. Miss the Mississippi and you, dear, I'm growing tired of the big city lights, tired of the glamour, and tired of the sights. In all my dreams I am longing once more back to my home on the old river shore. Mockingbirds are singing around the cabin door. Miss the Mississippi and you, de-yodelay, 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 Mississippi